So I've been using the ASUS Zephyrus G14 for the past 4 months or so for all of my PC gaming. I went with this laptop because I feel like the 14-inch is the right balance between performance and portability. The small footprint can fit just about anywhere comfortably, including all the backpacks I own. It's not too heavy either at 3.64 pounds and 0.7 inches thin. I really love the design. Just holding the laptop, the overall build just feels really solid, with very little flex on the keyboard deck and the lid. Now, it does not have as perfect of a fit and finish as the Razer Blade 14. The lid on my unit has a slight bend to it, but overall it feels very well built. There is some screen wobble when opened, nothing that has ever really affected my experience with it though. The white and silver color looks great with my aesthetics, and keeps it from having that over-the-top gamer design many gaming laptops tend to have. The lid has an angled matrix dot design. I think it looks pretty good, and when the light hits it at just the right angle, you can see the prismatic film shine through it. Opening the laptop, you're presented with a 1080p IPS display with 144Hz refresh rate. I think this display is one of the weaker aspects of this device. The resolution and high refresh rate works well for gaming, but I find the colors to be a bit washed out. ASUS claims it covers 100% of the sRGB, but my Spider 5 Pro display analysis tool is reading it around 93%. Along with that, it's reading 69% of the Adobe RGB and 69% of the P3 color gamut. Putting it side by side with the Razer Blade 14, it is clearly less vibrant and doesn't have nearly as much contrast as the display on the Razer. It is slightly brighter at 300 nits compared to the Razer, where my unit was measuring around 290 nits. I will note that the Razer Blade comes with a Quad HD screen, so it does also look sharper, but it comes with the trade-off of battery life. So I think the 1080p is a better choice here. This is a 16:9 screen. Hopefully ASUS will bring a 16:10 screen in the future like they have with the M16. It's still a good display for gaming. With the 144Hz refresh rate, it feels smooth and responsive. I did notice a little bit of ghosting. It was minimal, but if you're super sensitive to that or very competitive, it is there. The bezels are very thin on the sides and the top, where there is also no webcam. Webcams on gaming laptops aren't typically very good anyway, so it's not something that bothers me personally, but if you need one on your laptop for conference calls, then this might not be the best option for you. Below that is a fantastic keyboard. Of all the laptops I've tested, this one is my favorite. The keys feel more raised than other laptops, giving them great key travel and a very satisfying click. The overall experience feels great for gaming or doing productivity work. The spacebar is also larger on one side to make it easier to hit with your thumb when gaming, and there's a few extra keys at the top for volume control and quick access to the ASUS Armory crate. But that's not to say it's perfect. Personally, I'm not really a fan of the font. I like cleaner fonts like what Razer uses. Also, the keys themselves feel a bit like a cheap plastic. I would prefer if they had used higher quality materials here, and the backlight is pretty horrible. Because the keys are a silver color and the backlight is white, having the backlight on during the day makes it harder to read the keys. It works well at night or in dim settings, but even then the light itself is very uneven. On the top right is the power button that doubles as a fingerprint reader. Although for me, it's just a power button as the fingerprint reader hasn't worked for me, but maybe once. I tried reapplying my fingerprint in Windows setting multiple times, but no luck. Moving down, there's a pretty decent trackpad. It's on the smaller side for today's standards, but not too small to be usable. It's smooth and accurate and has a very pronounced click. There's also a preset function to turn off the trackpad. This is really convenient to prevent misfires if your palms happen to rest on it when gaming, without the need to Alt-tab to the Windows settings to turn it off. Below the keyboard and on either side of the trackpad are the speaker grills. They get very loud at 80 decibels, but they're not super clear, so don't expect MacBook Pro quality speakers from this laptop. On the left is the power connector, HDMI 2.0 output, a single USB 3.2 Type-C port with charging and DisplayPort, and a 3.5mm headphone microphone jack. On the right, there are two USB 3.2 Type-A ports and a USB 3.2 Type-C port. Unfortunately, there is no Thunderbolt or SD card slots. Battery life is one of the best aspects of this laptop, and one of the main reasons I decided to keep this laptop for myself. The built-in 76 watt-hour battery is getting me around 10 hours of real-world use. This includes web browsing and streaming video over YouTube at 50% brightness in battery saver mode. The ASUS software will also adjust the refresh rate of the display from 144Hz to 60Hz when using battery. Of course, gaming or using any other application with significant battery usage will drop that down to less than 2 hours. So you will want to game with it plugged in with the included 240 watt power adapter, which shouldn't be too much of a hassle to carry around as the power brick is surprisingly light and easy to pack away. The power cord is thin and wraps around the brick for easy storage, and it's much more manageable than the thick braided cable included in Razer's laptops. There are a few configurations to choose from. I have the $1,600 Best Buy configuration, which includes a Ryzen 9 5900HS, an RTX 3060, 16 gigs of RAM, and 1 terabyte of storage. Now 8 gigs of the RAM is soldered on and the other 8 is on a stick and upgradable. It's pretty disappointing that half of it is soldered as you lose out on dual channel memory if you upgrade that 8 gig stick to a 16 gig. However, you can configure this up to 32 gigs of RAM with 16 gigs soldered on and 16 on a stick. This Ryzen 9 and RTX 3060 combination has impressive performance for 1080p gaming. Most graphically intensive games are not going to reach that 144Hz max refresh rate, but the less demanding competitive games will. When gaming with the ASUS performance mode, I'm seeing the GPU pull around 60 watts and the CPU around 50 watts, but it is capable of up to 80 watts with dynamic boost. You could squeeze out a bit more performance if you were to use an external display, as the HDMI and USB-C DisplayPort are connected directly to the GPU. The CPU also has great performance, especially for a laptop this thin and light. During the Cinebench R23 test, the CPU is pulling around 64 watts and scoring on par with the slightly larger ASUS Zephyrus G14. When gaming, the fans do become audible, but not distractingly loud. Luckily, my unit does not make any annoying high-pitched whining noises when active. There are 4 exhausts, one on the left and one on the right, and 2 in the back. The intakes are located at the bottom of the device and can access more airflow with the Ergo Lift design. When you lift the lid of the laptop, the bottom of the device is raised to increase the airflow, helping the temperatures to stay low. With this design, it's better to game on a flat surface. During my use, I noticed the bottom of the laptop and the middle of the keyboard deck would become hot. Not hot enough to burn you or anything, but it's noticeable. The left and right side of the keyboard, including the WASD keys, always stayed comfortable to game on. The palm rest stayed cool as well. This is not the highest performing gaming laptop available today on the market, but between the size, the price, the performance, and the build quality, I think most people will be happy with this device. You can still target 144Hz at 1080p with no issues in competitive multiplayer games, and a very playable frame rates on more graphically intensive games. Then, when you need to use it for school or work, it has a fantastic battery life and is completely quiet in the silent mode. It's a great overall package. There are some alternatives to consider. If you don't like the look of the G14 or you want something with more performance, then you can check out my Razer Blade 14 review here.